here's the mic. So, because I like to be precise, then let's kick it off, see if people join. If they don't, that's their loss. So, welcome to this session about from the basement to the cloud, taking your on-premise CRM solution to the cloud. I'll be talking through the process, so not just the technology, but the whole process of your CRM project. From the process when you figure out to get the approvals for your project, and then what happens next. First of all, I'd like to thank our sponsors. We have the event sponsor Microsoft, we have HSO, Docs42, PwC, Proximo 3, and AIS, plus our different gold sponsors, event, lunch, accessibility sponsor, and data analytics sponsor, squared up. Without the sponsors, we wouldn't be here. Everything is pronounced, and I hope also that you visited some of their booths. So, starting off, this is me. I'm a business architect at Alpha People Nordic in Denmark. I work with both Dynamics 365 and Power Platform projects from the start to the end. So I sometimes work as architect level, other times actually go down to the nitty-gritty details. So I like to have an overview of the whole thing. I have a 7 years experience with Dynamics CRM. That's where I started in Dynamics version 2011 on premise. Very, very not nice UI, very rough, I would say. Some people like to say that Dynamics CRM looks too enterprisey to them. It looks too heavy. I was like, have you seen the version 2011? That was heavy. So now, actually right now the cloud version looks pretty nice to me. I'm a certified Scrum Master, so that also helps along with the CRM project. I'm an author, funnily enough, not on Dynamics or Power Platform. As I'm a passionate volunteer, I was a volunteer in the 2016 Summer Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. So the perfect place to be a volunteer beach volley is Copacabana Beach. So I wrote a book about how it is and how to be part of the Olympics. And as my background is that I'm born and raised in Estonia, but I live in Denmark. So I thought as a quote, I have a tongue twister that's in Estonian. It makes sense as gunsti eller gunstina teha, gunst on gunstis gunstinaha. Yeah, I apologize for that. Yeah, it's literally, it's not art to see art. It is to do art. It is art to actually understand the art doing it. But the fact that you can use one word in so many different contexts, so many different levels, is amazing, and the Estonian language is kind of like that. No one understands it. It's only 1.3 million people who do. So, felt like a funny tongue twister for you. I'm also on social medias. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and I have a blog. I usually write mostly about Dynamics 365 marketing, and also Dynamics 365 CE. Those are the main areas I work with. So the project about going to a cloud kind of runs into my home base here. So let's get started. We start off with the intro, where I take you through a part of the project that I'm basing this all on. It was a long process. Basically, everything that could go wrong went wrong, but also a really good learning process for everyone. We go through the team, the processes, technology, communication, and resources. My point in the end is to try to make you understand it's not all about the technology. There is so much more behind the project than just doing and figuring out which product you want to use to go to the cloud. So that is primarily what I'm doing here. So technology is only one small part. Again, not that small, but it is one part of the whole process that actually is the easiest part, I would say. It was for us. Everything else went wrong. So that was the only part that worked perfectly from the first time. So how many of you actually know of a failed CRM project? Show hand. See? 90% of people who actually attend know that. And that's actually the case that I've seen and heard of. I asked within the Dynamics 365 CE user groups in Denmark how many people have heard of the project. 70% that I asked actually knew of a project. 15% have been part of it, so they didn't have good research, good ideas about it. 10% were currently in it, so they were really frustrated, and 5% hadn't heard about it. But as an extra question to them, they had also never been part of a CRM project before. So that might have something to do with it, unfortunately. The reasons why it is that people say that the CRM projects have failed is that 7 out of 10 people say the team wasn't working. You can have a great project you have, but if people are dragging you in different directions, it's not going to work. It's going to drag out, it's going to go wrong. It might work with some, but it usually takes a lot more. The communication was non-existent. One thing is the communication between the team, another thing is the communication to the outside. If you want to have a very successful CRM project, you need to make sure that the people you're building it for also know what you're doing. You need to get the input from them as well as the people who think that it is their area. They're doing it, they're a small group standing alone, but they also need to consider who they are building it for. Wrong technology. Another question is when when things go wrong in the CRM project, they start thinking, is it because we chose the wrong technology? If we're Dynamics 365 project, then shouldn't we go with Salesforce instead? Yeah, we've heard so many good things about that's just plug and play, you do and things that you can also say about Dynamics. But if you put the same ground pillars to it, to the Salesforce project, you will get the same result. And then afterwards, you have spent so much money trying to figure out how to make the technology work. You can't. No matter what, if you don't have the grounding things, you're not going to make the technology work. And the last one, it is that the project never ends. It is, as it is, if you can see that new things are coming, you want to implement everything. So you continue, you have a go live date, but then it's like, okay, we'll just push it and put also the new things into it. So after 4 years, you figure out, okay, did we actually finish this project? Oh no, we're still in project mode. Everyone is still working. Okay, wouldn't it be time to actually call it quits? We're done here. But it also requires that there is someone actually overlooking the process. So as I mentioned, this is based on a project that I did. I call it Project Upgrade. It had 750 users that were moving to the cloud version on 26 different countries. It was moving from Dynamics CRM 2016 on-premise version. 2 years before that, they had actually moved from 2011 to 13 to 15 to 16, which was a nightmare on its own. But it is that then they figure out that now we actually got the approval from the bosses higher up. Never worked with the project before, but they said, okay, now we're trusting cloud, you can go, you can do that. So they started off the Dynamics CRM project. Around 20 people were part of the project team, and that was the core project team. So you had the developers, you had the business consultants, you had the project managers, and that was just a small project team, let's call it that. It grew heavily. 3 different project managers, that's a whole subject on its own. Project managers, you need someone to overrule or actually have the final word of saying. People might say that it is good with Scrum teams to have self-managing teams. You still need someone to have the final word. We had, in the project team, we have 2 or 3 very opinionated people who said that their way was the right way to do it. You go the one direction for 1 month, second direction the next month, and then in the end, after 6 months, you have actually not moved on with your project because you have taken so many different directions. Everyone's frustrated, and then you need to basically start over again. So you need the person or persons, depending on the company, who are not biased, but independent. They don't have 2 sides. They're just there to take the decision or make sure that the decisions are made. And then the process types that we chose, that was Scrum, Agile, Waterfall. So that was everything that could be. Started with saying that we wanted to do Agile. We wanted to do Scrum, everything, all the morning meetings, the retrospectives, follow everything. We wanted to follow it to the dot. Then we opened our calendars and set up the meetings. We were sitting more in meetings than we actually did anything. So we were talking in the meetings about the meetings that we want to have, of the meetings that needs to be held, because we wanted to follow Scrum. That didn't work. That just literally didn't work. Our retrospective meetings in the end ended up not having anything positive, everything negative, and you could just feel people were going down. No one had any motivation. So, good idea, you can figure out that you want to follow one process, but it needs to fit in to the processes, it needs to fit in the company, it needs to fit into the people. So what I've seen multiple projects do, multiple companies do, is the fact that they actually mix and match different process types. They take the good things from Scrum, they take other things from for Waterfall. I'm not a huge fan of Waterfall. But if we have companies in Denmark that are huge fans of it because they want to know everything. When it will start, when it will finish, what it is actually. But I just feel that is also the place where you go down and say, okay, we have now made all of this. No, but that was not what we wanted. And then you figure out in the end part, and then you start over again. So you paid a lot of money, you spend a lot of resources, time on it, and then in the end you figure out that it's not working. In that sense, I more enjoy the fact that you have some small gaps where you can figure out if it's the direction you want to take. And as I said, everything went wrong. They got the approval for the project in 2018. We started discussions in 2019. The development started in 2020, and they went live in 2021. I consider that a very long process. Also knowing that we had all the help we could from Microsoft, everything was working. The problem here was people were going different directions, people were adding things to the project, no one was taking charge, and then in the end, the scope that we started with, yeah, that was a dream scope that we had in the start. We ended up with 800 more things in the scope. Because, there's some small changes, so just add it on top. Nothing's going to change. So that changed a lot. Let's say we first planned the go live in 2020, so we basically just moved the go live date a whole year, to say. And to say that the bosses were not happy is a whole other level. Because if the project gets that long, money also goes that long. Budgets go bust. Everything that you have promised to the upper management where you actually got the approval, nothing is happy. No one is happy. Everything is red, and everyone is seeing red. So, once again, the team is a very important part of it. It can either make it or break it. So what I say, cross-functional core teams, 20 people, I actually say is way too much. You have a core team that actually consists of 1 or 2 for each and different subject. You have people that are from IT, you have people from business, and you have people that are decision makers. That is your core team. They make the first creation and then they branch out. They delegate, they figure out what is that they need to get, and then they involve more people. But the core team, keep it small. Keep it as you can in so few people as possible. The decisions will come easier and you will hopefully reach the targets better. Team lead versus project manager. Now I talked a lot about project management, project managers, but you need just a person who is leading the project. It doesn't have to have a person that actually has the title project manager. It can be just one of the people from the core team who actually is able to take it, or you just get another person in that is willing to take the task. I also hear a lot of people going very much up with the fact that we need to have a person with a title project manager. That doesn't mean they're better at it. They have a title, we all have a title. So sometimes just normal team lead is a better task to go. Team building always helps. If you have people who don't know each other, if you're people from different departments that you have put together to the core team, always a good thing to have a social event or have a small gathering just to have the people get to know each other in a more relaxed environment. As in, take a dinner, go to a movie, do something, have people talk, have a few drinks. A lot of drinks can also go wrong. But it's important, the whole atmosphere, the communication, working together afterwards is tremendous how much it has improved. We had a pizza party as a kickoff to the project for the core team. We ordered way too much pizza, we ate way too much. But people remember that back when it is that the project is going down, when the stress is up, where people are getting mad at each other. They remember the fact that, okay, it was actually pretty fun to do something. We can actually talk to each other. Because if you haven't done that part, people are not that willing to approach each other if they don't know them well. So it can be that questions can go unasked. It can be that problems get unsolved because no one talks to each other. And then you have the feedback follow-up retrospectives. Be honest. Retrospectives and follow-up, be honest. You should not have a boss there. You should not go think about the fact that I'm going to get fired no matter what I say there. It is important that you solve out the problems when they come, not when it is that you're in a critical point of the project, moving out, and then it comes out that, oh, that person actually didn't do his job the past 6 months. That is also going to either make or break the project. If it is that those small little tiny details that might have been irrelevant 3 months ago are getting and growing, in the end, people are not showing up, people are not doing anything, and your deadlines are going. Then we have processes. The process part of it is that you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. I like processes. I like processes because no one has them. You ask a company how it is that when you start your project, do you have your process in place? Yeah, we have the sales process and we have the customer, we have everything. We were thinking about it. Okay, cool. What are your processes? Do you have them documented? Yeah, he has something in a PowerPoint there, and then we have some slides there. Okay, do you have do you actually know what your process is? Yeah, we add this and do that, and then we just need the system to actually fix it. The system can't do it for you if you don't know what you want out of the system. It can't. It can do a lot. If you're willing to take the system as it comes without any modifications, you're also willing to say that that is your sales process or that is your customer service process, and then you have to follow it. That is why the first part of your processes is the fact that you need to identify what are your main processes, what are you trying to solve. And in the identify, that is the brainstorming workshops that you're going to have, and those are usually when you figure out your whole sales team. You figure out what is, one thing is the sales, but you also need to figure out how it goes through, what it is that you're trying to solve, which aspects of the different departments, of the different environments that you're actually trying to bring in. If it is, that was a manufacturing company that I was working with, and they had processes starting from sales, adding marketing, going into service, putting in manufacturing part, and then also some areas that they had developed themselves. But no one had the overview of the actual process, how it is that these different puzzle pieces, they needed to play together. You can add the sales part, ask some people do one thing, service people do the other thing. How those things click together, no one had a clue. And that is another thing that people are going to start thinking about when they actually access the system is, how is it that it makes sense for people to go from one end to the other end? Doesn't always work. Once you have identified your processes, you need to gather the information for all stakeholders. Once you have identified them, you also know what it is that you want to get from the people. Once you have concrete questions to ask, people are also more able to answer them. Then you map them, draw them down, draw them anywhere. Just put them on a paper, make a picture, you have documentation for it. It's lousy, terrible as scaling, but it is something that you have that you can look back at, if that's what you want to do. Draw the as-is processes based on the information gathered. What it is, how it is now. Is that what you want? Are we all agreeing on that, that is the process that we're actually having? Or if not, you go back, you start again, you start drawing, you do the brainstorming workshops, and then you get to the mapping part again, and then if you're happy, you go to the analysis part. does what it is, the mapping process, the pictures that you have drawn, do they actually fill the needs 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Are we in the process of changing our ways? Or are things going to continue the same way it is? I also like the sentence when people say that that's how we've always done. Yeah, they do say that, but they don't do that. They want new stuff, they want the new ways of doing things, but still, they are still hoping to base it on the old processes that they've created at some point. And that is why you have the analysis phase when you figure out if they cover the future needs and draw up the to-be processes. And in the end, you can compare and see how much the two differ from each other. And it is the analysis phase and it is the to-be processes that you're going to base in order to build the system that you want to do. And then we get to the technology part. And technology is just a tool. The questions to look in whenever you for the technology part is what type of an upgrade do you want to do? There are different types of upgrading that you can do. You can just have data. You can build a whole new system online, so just migrating some parts of your existing system to the online. Or you take the whole database, all the customizations, all things, and you want to move them to the cloud. That is the first question you need to figure out if you at all want to know how to continue into the future. Those processes for the different upgrade types are very different. The help you're getting is going to be very different, and the timelines are also going to be very different. What we did, we actually decided to do the type where we took the data from premise to online, and we built up a whole new system in the cloud version. It made sense primarily because the main goal was to get rid of all the customization, to get rid of all the plugins that was created to the Dynamics version 2011. And we were still getting errors on that no one knew how to fix. The error messages everyone kept reading was, yeah, something, CRM 2011. I beg your pardon. No one said, yeah, we have nothing left from 2011. All code has been updated, everything's working. And then you get another error with an integration, CRM 2011. So that was one thing that we were also trying to avoid, is the fact that in the future when going to the cloud, you know that you have upgrades at least twice a year that can affect your customizations. And to figure out and find a developer absolutely every time is a pain in the butt. The second one is how much data is needed. Some people or some companies, what they do also is use this process or this project as a way of cleaning up their data. Figuring out what kind of data is actually necessary in your system, what is worth taking along, how much history do you need to bring along? Do you just want to take all the active accounts, or is it necessary that you take back 5 to 10 years of data? Also considering GDPR, so that has also limited quite amount of data that people are able to tag along. But it is a good way of figuring out if you have a lot of duplicates in the system. If it is that you just haven't paid attention to the fact that your database is growing. You have people creating all sorts of records. There are 5 accounts named the same, but have all different information. There can be contacts that actually were relevant 10 years ago that no one ever sees or uses again. But it is in the system because, no one has time to clean them. There's always that point in the CRM team that says, in the very low priority areas, like, yeah, then we'll clean up the system. And then comes documentation, of course, after that. You'll never get there. Like, never. I spent 5 years in a company as a technical consultant. I never got to the end of that list. Like, never. And then, of course, came the CRM project that we also said we'll start documenting and making everything as it should be. We never got there. So, what is the customization strategy? And that's the next one, a big one. Do you want, how much it is that you want to either keep your plugins, your things that you have made custom, or how much do you actually want to see what it is in the new product? Have Microsoft or any other provider actually solved the issues that you were having that you needed those customizations? Have you looked what's in the product? There's a lot of companies coming, when they do the upgrade project, they say, we want to go standard. I love the word standard because it's so broad. And every person who says that has their own idea of what standard is. You have a product, you take it as it comes. That's one way of thinking of a standard. Other people say that, okay, we'll make it our own, and that's a standard. Because we're using the same, we're using the tools that are coming from Microsoft, but it's standard. And then when you have those groups of people, two groups of people talking to each other, you can already see there that they're talking past each other. Because one is referencing one thing, another one is referencing another thing, while they're actually thinking they're talking about the same thing. And do we have all the needed resources? If it is that you want to go heavy on plugins, if you want to go heavy on the customization, you do need help from developers. Do you have that within your company, or do you need to hire in some help, either external or internal? That takes time. If you don't have a partner already, that will take time to figure out and put together a team that can help you. Do you have all the resources needed within the core group? Are you happy with the people that are there? And that is all the questions you ask before you figure out if you have the money for it. The money hopefully comes when you get an approval from the top management, but not always, because here is now when you have put everything down, you figure out, okay, this is our project, this is what we're going to do, and that is where the numbers actually start growing and adding up where you need to actually add on top. So when you figure out the answer to all of these questions, I would say you're doing better than about 50% of the projects I've been part of. Some people have some questions answered, other people have other questions answered, but I have rarely seen a project that actually goes through 4 of those questions and have a clear answer on that. Because it is also, one thing is you're hoping to do the perfect project, but then you're running out of time. You figure out people get sick, COVID hits, God knows. So everything can go wrong. So you take what it is there to get, but this is one way, and this would be the perfect way to actually make sure you have a successful project. From the technology part, you have the possibility of using Microsoft Fast Track team. That was what we did, and we took 4 years. So it is an offer from Microsoft, a special team that you can take, that you can use the resources for. You have to use a silver or a gold partner in order to be part of Fast Track, so you go through a partner in order to be able to get the resources from Microsoft. It was before also the fact that you needed to be a certain size of a company to do that. As far as I understood, they have actually removed that. So now you just have to make sure you have a partner to you that you trust that is a silver or gold level at Microsoft in order to be able to use the services. The idea of Microsoft Fast Track is success by design. They come to you with resources. They don't do the work for you. They help you figure out the processes. Once again, the first question they come to you is, do you have your process in place? What is your strategy? What is your go-live strategy? What kind of deployments do you want to do, and how much data do you have? So all the 4 questions that we also answered in the previous step is something that Microsoft Fast Track team is going to ask you. One thing that they're also going to give you is tech talks. So the area that they're going to do is you're getting appointed a person that will be your contact person on the journey, where it is that you set up meetings with them. You set up workshops, you set up tech talks, and you set up, actually we had daily stand-up meetings in the morning just to figure out that things are going smoothly as they are. We got a lot of tickets that during the process, we got put through faster because we added him as a CC to the tickets. Suddenly you see people are moving, things are getting answers, Microsoft is calling back on the things. So I like that part the most, to be fair. Tech talks were good, every workshops I also liked, but the fact that I could see that my ticket that usually takes like a week to answer, I got an answer in 3 hours, I like that part. So that is a good thing to have. The last thing is migration services. offers for data migration. My fast track team can help you with the data migration. But that one, as far as I can read, is still dependent on the size of the migration. If you are under 500 Office 365 licenses, you will just get the theoretical help from them. Then they'll help you with the resources, they'll help you guide you along, but they will not do the work for you. If you're above that, then you get more help, and then clearly you become more interesting. Over 500 Office licenses also is a pretty penny. So, and that is actually the process type that we went through. We had the initiate phase, the implement phase, repair, and the operate phase. In the initiate phase, it is when we actually got contact to Fast Track. We got the people, we made the initial introductions, we had the onboarding phase. We had meetings with both our partner and Fast Track to make sure that they were also aligned. Communication. They don't always usually talk to each other. So when you have a partner to it, make sure that you know that the partner is also talking to Microsoft. Depending on the partner and depending on the person you get from Microsoft, that is always not the case. That is not a priority for them to make sure that they keep themselves aligned. So that is also something that we went wrong with. We assumed that they were talking to each other because they work together probably more than just on our project. But no, that didn't happen, and we found it out the hard way, so halfway through the project when we figured out we needed to twice or 3 times had to tell the same thing over and over again. Then when we got to the implement phase, the design, we had the solution blueprint workshop. What you get from Microsoft, the workshop is actually a rather hands-on workshop that you do. They come with you basically like a survey with different parts. You answer the questions before the workshop. And during the workshop, you go through the different parts of it. You go through how many customizations you have, what are your strategy levels, and how is that you want to implement the new process. Based on the answers that you give in that survey, the Fast Track team will then also suggest specific tech talks, specific other workshops that you need to go through to make sure that you are aware of everything. And during the building phase, that was where the Microsoft support tickets came into play for mostly, was the fact whenever we tried to, we ran into an issue, we took a hold of the Fast Track person, we created a Microsoft ticket, and suddenly things were moving, we could fix things. But it is primarily still theoretical help that we got from the help. Actually, one thing that was not theoretical, was the fact where in the deployment phase when we did data migration. When we did data migration, we actually could get help from them to open up so that we didn't run into throttling issues. We didn't run into the fact that we ran out or timed out. So we were able, but that was for a short period of time and actually with no extra cost. So we were actually making sure that the data we were moving from on-premise to online, it made it there faster than we would have done ourselves. And we had a person who could always check up if we figured out that nothing wasn't, or something wasn't working or it wasn't going well. The last part of it is the Go Live Readiness Workshop. Once again, you get the questionnaire, you answer different levels of questions, you fill them in, and based on the answers, you go through, then they also figure out, are you ready to go live? Have you thought of everything? Are you missing something? And all of that information that you put in all of those workshops, it actually is also a good documentation afterwards that you have. You know what types of things you went through, and if you feel like you're missing something, then it is also something to look at in the future. The last one is go live. Hopefully it comes faster than it did for our project. We were at some point really frustrated, and the fact that we had Microsoft Fast Track helping us, we did not really like the fact that it had fast in the name, because we did not feel that they were fast or the project was fast. So yeah, we just called it Microsoft Track. That was no way near fast. But, and again, it wasn't their fault. Everyone was frustrated, and when frustrated, you want to blame someone. So Microsoft was always a safe option to blame. But it is that on the fast track team, the idea is that after you've gone live, the person you're appointed to the connection with them will disappear. It actually doesn't disappear the moment you go live. We actually had 2 or 3 weeks after we went live, when we still had the increased capacity for the system. We were managing, every time we made a question, we could still reach out to that person. We didn't have the morning meetings, but we had the hypercare period of 3 weeks that we managed to still use the resources we had from Fast Track, and that really came in handy. Communication is the last part that we're going to go through. And communication is, it seems easy. It seems something that is very logical. It should happen. We communicate with everyone all the time. We do it all the time. We never thought about we never think about the fact that it is actually something we should focus on. Who to communicate to? The management. They are on your butt all the time, figuring out how far you are. Are you doing it? Are you reaching your deadline? Is everything going well, or how is the budget going? That is the biggest question. You have to go to process owners. You need to talk to end users, and you need to do other relevant parties. End users are the people that are the highest stakeholders that you want to communicate out to your process. They are the people that are going to use the system afterwards. If you are going to build a system, or if you're moving a system somewhere and then just dropping it on people afterwards, you're going to get a whole bunch of very frustrated people because they have no clue what to do. That was actually the area that I would like to say in our project that we excelled at. We had people involved from the very first step. We had them involved in the process of figuring out how we want the system to look like. We had them involved when we did the technical testing. We had the user testing was after each time. And when we went live, it was actually like people were used to using the system already. They had been there, they had seen everything, they had gone through the part of what does this button do. So everything it wasn't that new to them, and it wasn't like a shock when they got there. So we got very positive feedback when we went live, because there was nothing that they hadn't seen before. There wasn't anything, for example, if you move from Dynamics 2016 version to the online version, the UI is different. The system is different. You now have hubs. You don't, the forms are different. You don't have the 2-kilometer long forms anymore, but you have to click on tabs. And it's amazing how I think that's a small thing. It led to discussions 2 months long of if we should have the 2-kilometer long forms, or are the tabs actually kind of okay. That is where change management comes to play. Yeah, but we've always done that. We scroll and then I have an overview. How good of an overview do you have if you need to scroll 10 minutes to actually find the information? And then you have the process saying, hey, yeah, but it was nice that it was all in one place. Yeah, but it also took 3 minutes to load the form. So you have to take some, you have to lose some, but it is the most important part is that your end users are within your loop. And you continue on. It is something you have to do continuously. You don't just, I set up the meeting with the management once. It's fine, I've done that. It is important that you continuously let know how the process is going. If things are going wrong, also say that. It's not just about the good things, because if things go wrong, they are also more understanding of the fact that, okay, it takes a bit longer. Or it is that if the good things are, they also celebrate it with you. You know that, okay, yes, these are the wins that we got from here, and these were the losses. But in the end, they're also going to remember the fact that there were both wins and losses, and not the fact that there was a whole silence in the company, and suddenly they hear that the CRM project is delayed for half a year. That already puts the project in a negative point of view. What we did was we actually created a newsletter. We created a weekly newsletter where we brought out the different parts that we were working at, the different areas. The fact that CRM wasn't actually that widespread in the company, we actually took the chance of using inspiration. Use it as an inspiration of how you can use CRM in different departments. And that newsletter is actually continuing on after the upgrading project, because people were first figuring out what CRM was in different departments that they had never heard of. There were tools, there were processes, there was ways of doing into CRM that they were doing manually in Excel. People are very happy about their Excel. But it was the way, it was creating awareness to people that they could use the same system for different things. And that is, it didn't take us long to put it together, that newsletter. And we had the stories there because we were living through them. And what we did, we just posted it, we sent it out to the whole company, and actually people were happier. They were happier, the people that we were talking to. CRM was getting more acknowledgement. The management was happier because there were also different areas that knew of the project. So continuous communication, and also if you do it in the core team, very open communication. It is important that you go everything, well, on the business level. But it is important that you trust each other. It is important that you are the people that you go to. That you don't have a team member that decides, I can't work with that, I'm going to go to another person, and then you're going to branch out. That doesn't work. Communication, communication, communication. Resources. I used XRM Toolbox a lot. That was my number one tool when developing the solutions for our processes. I used the solution checker, I used the UML diagram generator, entity relation diagram creator, users team, and security role report. These were the tools that I used the most, primarily because we had to show what it is that we had in the system. We needed to show how it was and what it did. XRM Toolbox, if you haven't heard from it, definitely look it up. It has a lot of tools, and it can be used for basically anything. From Microsoft, you have the Microsoft Fast Track team. You have the information on Microsoft Docs. Both actually different processes, different ways of doing. They have their own area for moving from on-premise to online. So Microsoft documentation is also a very good place. And then you have also Microsoft Azure migrations if you want to go down and dirty on the data migration. The second way of going is, if you don't want to involve Microsoft, is the fact that you just have an external partner. Those are also projects that we've done. Those go as fast, sometimes faster, are as successful, and sometimes less successful than using a Microsoft Fast Track with a partner. Fast Track people can give you resources from Microsoft, but they are not wizards. They cannot make your project successful if nothing works. Same with an external partner. They have resources, they can do it, but they can't do it without you. They do have a cooperation with Microsoft, even though you're not involving Fast Track team. So no matter what, you'll get a quality connection to Microsoft if you don't have it already. And you have the continuous help on the journey to the cloud, and you also have the support afterwards. If you are working with a partner, they know the solutions you have created, and they know how it is to support them in the future. So as a summary, gather the right team, decide upon the right processes, choose the right tools, can be one or the other, not everything works for everyone, and let everyone know. Continuously let people know how you're doing and how it's going. Thank you. If there are any questions, then you can ask now or find me later. No now, so you can find me later. So thank you.